Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am very excited to be having a conversation with actor Erik Palladino. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you for having me, Maya. I appreciate it.
I am very excited to be talking with you.
That's
So,
awesome. I'm excited to be talking with you too.
thank you. Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say that you have been in so many things that I love. I loved you in Suits and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and so much more. There's just too much to mention. So,
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long road. Lots of roles over the years.
yeah. Yeah. So what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
So funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine, another actor, who's struggling a little bit right now because after 6 months of being on strike, the strike, as you know,
Yeah.
was ratified
Yeah.
yesterday, and he's had we've all, like all of us, we've had a tough 6 months of not working. But he also was struggling with some other things too, prior to working. And we, as actors, we get so focused on the carrot,
Yeah.
unattainable carrot, because it doesn't even exist. But there's no
Yeah.
there's no job that's the job that's going to change everything. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist. And the longer you're in this business and in life, really,
Yeah.
it's not the big things, it's the little things.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to him about what are the things that he's been doing for himself each day, or at least a couple of times a week, that he can do, that he finds brings him joy. And he had trouble answering that because he is so focused on the goal that when that happens, you're not enjoying the smaller little parts of your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And it's the little parts that you have to build up. And it's funny, I know you love quotes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I have the quotes that I love, but because Norman Lear passed away today, one of the greatest writer, creator, activists of the entertainment industry. I said I'm going to look up a couple of quotes,
Yeah.
and I'm actually, let me read. I know you'll get to this, but I'm jumping the
Yeah.
gun with you a little bit. But
Okay.
two of
Yeah.
the quotes that came up, and I have my own, and we could definitely do that. But two of
Yeah.
the quotes that
Yeah.
came up that speaks to this, and I loved it so much. And in honor of him, I'd like to read it to you. And it really applies to this question that you have. Success is how you collect your minutes. You spend millions of minutes to reach one triumph, one moment. Then you spend maybe 1,000 minutes enjoying it. If you are unhappy through those millions of minutes, what good is the 1,000 minutes of triumph? It doesn't equate. Life is made of small pleasures. Good eye contact over the breakfast table with your wife, a moment of touching a friend. Happiness is made of those tiny successes. The big ones come too infrequently. If you don't have all those zillions of tiny successes, the big ones don't mean anything.
Oh, I love that one.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
When I read that, I was like, oh my God. And then he had one other one that was great, which applies to now. I wish I knew how we achieved the goal of world peace. My bumper sticker reads, just another version of you. The sooner we agree that we're just another versions of each other, just other versions of each other, we human beings, the sooner we will find some sense of world peace.
Oh, I love that one too.
Isn't that great? Wow, like
Yeah.
it's so great. When I read it, I was like, that's just so amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so I try to find joy um in spending time with, my kids, and not like big events, just like, hanging out in my daughter's room and playing with toys with her. We're just, being goofy and silly with each other, and playing a little basketball with my son and seeing how happy me playing basketball is with him, because I don't love playing basketball.
Yeah.
But he likes it, so I do it, for him, and I enjoy working out. I know when I don't work out, I feel disconnected. I have to do something physical.
Yeah.
So if I do something physical every day, that brings me joy. Spending time with my wife, and just hanging out with her sometimes, and and just going on a walk. But again, not like big, things. I mean, big things are fun to do, but
Yeah.
it's always those little things, and exactly, what Norman Lear said in that quote. It's those little things,
Yeah.
because when you get the big job as an actor, when you get that call from your agent after working so hard to get to that point,
Yeah.
it's great, but it's only great for a few hours.
Yeah.
And then you're back to work. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, I gotta go work on this job, and I gotta make sure I
Yeah.
want to do good work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's never attached to money. Like, money's nice, and
Yeah.
it's, and especially when you need it. Like, I
Yeah.
certainly need it right now. You know what I mean? After 6 months of no
Yeah.
work at all, it's definitely, this is the life of a working actor. It's not a movie star. Just a working actor. It can get
Yeah.
tight sometimes, and especially when you got 3 kids.
Yeah.
You know, uh,
Yeah.
and we've never had a strike that lasted this long. Well, not in my time. And so you during this time, I just made sure I was very aware, consciously aware, of doing things that brought me joy, because if I didn't, I'd jump off a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I definitely, I've always like, my mom has always taught me, it's the little things that bring joy, and to always find those moments. And
Yeah.
it's, so I've always done that, but it's like over the last few years, I've really kind of been like, I know this isn't a big thing, but it brings me a lot of joy. And so
You
that,
mean over the
like,
last few years, you've been more conscious of it? Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah, you have to be conscious of it, because if you're not conscious of it, you wind up sleepwalking through shit, and then
yeah,
can I curse on this?
yeah, that's fine.
You wind up sleepwalking through it, and then the next minute you turn around, you're like, I'm depressed,
Yeah,
I'm sad, and it's
yeah,
consistent. Well, and then you got to go, well, why? Oh, and then you realize, if you're paying attention, like, well, I haven't been doing anything
yeah,
that brings me joy, and
yeah,
if I have been doing something that's bringing me joy, I'm not paying attention to it either.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, you gotta, like, we're not like, we're not religious. I grew up Catholic, but I'm not religious. And but we do something at the table, that instead of praying, we don't do it every night. We probably do it like once a week. Some of the kids eye roll now, because they've been doing it their whole lives, and they're
yeah,
getting older. I mean, Roman's still into it, my 13-year-old, but um, we do a thing called appreciations. So every person goes around the table and just says what they appreciate about somebody else at the table. And it's like, it's really nice. Like, even though the brothers might be fighting, they have to tell each other what they appreciated about each other. So, and how often do people do that with each other? You know what I mean? Yes,
yeah,
at
yeah,
birthdays and maybe at holidays, but like, you know, that's a little thing that, it's even my wife and I, when we're kind of fighting more and annoyed with each other. We've been together 20 years. We get annoyed with each other. Like, it's gonna
yeah,
happen. But when we start doing that too much, we're getting annoyed with each other or out of sync a little bit. We sit down and we say, "All right, I'm just gonna tell you what I appreciate about you for 5 minutes."
yeah,
So, and then she'll do it to me. And then after that, you're like, well, it's not really just for her to hear it. It's for me to hear it.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
like,
I love that.
what I'm grateful for. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I'm
yeah,
grateful because of all these wonderful things, that I wouldn't have married her if I didn't think
yeah,
she was a wonderful person, but we sleepwalk
yeah,
through stuff, and then we forget. And then a lot of marriages do this, but
yeah,
they actually work on appreciating each other and being grateful for each other and talk to each other about those things,
yeah,
you know. And so I'm conscious of that, and that I find very helpful because I've had such a my career is so up and down, up and down, up and down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you
yeah,
mentioned a lot of jobs, but there were a lot of job times in between that I didn't have a job. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah,
where's this next gig coming from? You
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
so it is those little things that keeps me
yeah,
going and paying attention to those little things.
yeah. Well, I love that. Yeah. So what movie or show do you find yourself quoting more often than you'd like?
I definitely quote Goodfellas a lot. You know what I mean? Like scenes from Goodfellas, like
Yeah,
you know, Shawshank Redemption is one. Yeah, I don't know if it's more often than I'd like. I just, you
yeah,
know, um, because I'm a hopeful person, and like the quote that I say to my kids all the time is, and I don't even know where, it's a simple quote, but I always say never give up, and you know, uh, like Muhammad Ali said something to the effect of like, once everyone's going to get knocked down, but it's like it's really, it's not over. It's how
yeah,
you get back up.
yeah,
That decides if you're a winner. You know what I mean? In
yeah,
this thing,
yeah,
if you just and so I mean, Shawshank Redemption had a line in it about hope that says hope's a good
yeah,
thing. Then Morgan Freeman says it's a bad thing in prison, but
yeah,
in
yeah,
life it's actually a good thing. I think that you have to wake up hopeful,
yeah,
no matter what, you know,
yeah,
whatever it is, the thing that you want to attain, that can't always be the thing. I think
yeah,
it's there, it's there, but if you don't achieve it, it's got to be about the process.
yeah,
It's got to be the process. And when I
yeah,
was younger, it was about the goal. And now, in the last 20 years for me or 15 years for me, it's about the process, you
yeah,
know, um, and so I appreciate the most. And so some movies, they don't talk about that in movies that,
yeah,
like, because
yeah,
people, every movie has a goal, right? The character has
yeah,
some sort of goal it's trying to get to.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I love that. Yeah. So I am pop culture obsessed and I go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching.
Mhm.
Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
The Diplomat with
Mm,
Kurt Russell.
oh, yeah.
Obsessed.
I That's been on my list to watch.
Obsessed. Yeah. I I worked with her briefly years ago because I had like a 3 episode or whatever it was, a 5 episode arc on that show, Felicity. And I wound up not doing it. I shot for one day and then uh ER originally released me to allow me to do it. And then they found out it was like, I think it was like a 3 episode arc, and they were only allowing me to do a 2 episode arc. And then they were like, wait a minute, you can't do a 3 episode arc on a competing network. And so
Mm.
they literally, I shot for a day with them. I've never had that happen in my career. It's terrible. Like I've never had that happen. I still to this day think JJ Abrams would never hire me again because of it. Uh, um, but and it was a good shoot day too. It was like but I had to like, I mean, that's terrible. Like I can't,
Yeah,
I mean, they wasted all that money. It was, I mean, I was there all day. I was in one scene I shot, but they had to reshoot that scene with another actor. Yeah.
oh, wow.
But anyway, Kerry Russell is just so good on that show, and the
Yeah,
writing is incredible. And when I see a show like that, especially because, I mean, I literally called my agents yesterday about it and said, I know people think of me as a certain way, a New York kind of Italian, kind of more urban kind of guy, not necessarily a guy that would be a congressman or a suit and tie
yeah,
guy. But I I would give anything to be on a show like that where,
Yeah.
it's like, political and smart and just, it's just really, really well written, and the characters are so well drawn out and well, you're sometimes as an actor, you're really only as good as the writing. And if the writing is that good, it's almost impossible to not come off well.
Yeah.
And that's how good that writing is.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. Have you
Yeah.
watched it
I
yet,
love
Maya?
that. I haven't, not yet. It's been on my list.
What's some of your favorite shows right now?
Oh, right now I am really what I'm uh watching is the show Grimm. That's been
Okay.
taking up most of my time.
But
That's
that's an older one. So you just finding it now in your
yeah,
life?
well, I knew about it, but I didn't watch it for a long
Oh,
time
yeah.
because I mean, my mom watched it when it was on, and then it was just like last year or the past couple years I've been wanting to watch it, but my mom, I don't like, really like dark, creepy things. And my
Yeah.
mom was like, it's gonna really creep you out, I think. So I stayed away from it. And then I just, in the last like few months, I have been watching it because I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try that. So,
And you love it.
yes, I do.
I feel like I auditioned for something I mean, I've auditioned for every show probably out there, but I feel like I may have auditioned for like I feel like there was like a good role on it too at the time. I'm forgetting now. It's been a while. Back in the day when we used to go, what I remember is going to the audition. I remember like the room. I remember the space. I don't remember the part, but I remember like, there's certain casting offices you remember, and it
Yeah.
was, I think it was on CBS Radford lot. And yeah, I remember but I never deep dived into the show. I watched like an episode or two and I liked it.
Yeah.
What other
Yeah.
shows are you
So cool.
watching?
Um, I just finished watching the show Obliterated on Netflix.
It's good.
Um, it's entertaining, yeah. Yeah, it's really entertaining. It's from the guys who uh created the creators of Cobra Kai.
Oh, okay.
Um, And it's funny because my mom and I watched it together, and then I just one of the actors on the show posted about that it was out, and at the end he was like, "Don't watch this with your mom." And so I sent it to my mom, and I was like, "Well, we're watching it together." So that those are the shows that, and now I'm watching Wolf Like Me,
No.
um, with Josh Gad and Isla Fisher.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
that one's really good.
I like
And
those two.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, those are mainly what I've been watching.
It takes my wife and I a long time to get through a series because after, we wind up going to bed way too late with three kids, putting my daughter down. She's 7, but she still messes around till 10:30 in there, just read a book, tell me a story, like this. So my sons are pretty self-sufficient going to bed now. Obviously, they're 13 and 11, but so by the time we're in bed, it's like 10:30. We've been up since 6:30 in the morning. And so we wind up watching, we go through shows like The Diplomat. She got through it last week because she had COVID, the flu, and strep throat. So she was in a room, quarantining for about 4 days. So she just watched them all through. But it usually takes us to watch 10 episodes. It probably takes us 2 months. Because it's like 15 minutes and then she falls asleep. And then I stop and I'm like, do I go on without her? Or I'll just wait. The one show that I couldn't wait was Succession, because
Oh.
I was like, I'm not waiting for you. This is too good. I'm not waiting. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You can go watch it yourself sometime. And I watched that whole series with my wife sleeping next to me. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it's probably when like I get really obsessed with the show, that's like all um I will watch, and I will like put off things I have to do to
oh
watch
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
more episode.
It's hard. It's hard to
Yeah,
pull away. I mean, you do
it
get into a
is.
rhythm with a show.
Yeah,
I hated, we loved Game of Thrones, and it was like, it drove me mad that I had to wait every week to watch it. So I would let it come out fully and then watch it. Like
oh,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I couldn't
yeah,
wait every week on a
yeah.
show like that. Ted Lasso is another one. I didn't wait. I just waited for, like, I
Yeah.
knew it was out and I waited for them to be done with it and then I watched
Oh,
so I could
yeah.
fly through. I didn't want
Yeah,
to wait a week.
uh,
I know that,
yeah,
networks, in the old days of networks, that's how it
yeah,
obviously still works for network shows. But
yeah,
certain shows, you're just like, I can't wait. I can't wait.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
so
Yeah. Um, y- so, who has had the biggest impact on you professionally?
it's an interesting question. I mean, I guess my mom and my dad in many ways, um, you know, my dad and mom with the work ethic, you know, they, they worked really hard growing up so that we had a better life than they had growing up, and, and, taught me to, you try to save my money during the thin years, and, probably one of the more frugal actors out there. Although my mom, I just had a conversation with the other day. I'm like, do you really think that I'm like someone that spends a lot of money? Like, my reputation with all my friends is that I'm like a saver. You know what I mean? Like I try
Yeah,
to save and not because it's like, why, it's not because I want to be a saver. It's because I just know the business I'm in, so one
yeah,
year I can make a lot of money and then the next year I can make like 1/10 the amount,
yeah, yeah,
and that's just the business I've chosen. It's the Godfather line, this is the business
yeah,
we've chosen,
yeah,
and so I'd say that my mom and my dad have had my dad worked really hard as a kid growing up in he worked in the Bronx. He had a small heating contracting business and he worked long hours and every day, and he worked on holidays, he worked on Christmas because he was a boiler man. So, if one of the buildings in the Bronx, the boiler, broke on Christmas morning, he wouldn't say, well, I'll get back to you the next day and leave, 50 people on Christmas, families with no heat and hot water on Christmas. So he would go to that job and leave our family to go do that on Christmas, and so that influence for me, whenever it felt hard acting, I would just go back to that. I would just be, well, it's not having to go shoot, on Christmas Day. You're never asked to do that as an actor, even if the hours are long and when you're working. The hardest part about what I do is really just the hustling for the next job. That's the hardest part. Once you become a movie star, the work is challenging, but you're you're always getting the gig. So it's not
yeah,
that's not I don't see that the gig isn't hard. The hustle is the hard part, for a blue collar working actor like myself. That's the hard part. And the permanent job interviewing, you know what I mean? Because that's I'm 55 years old and they'll still want me to audition, Maya, to play a cop in one episode of Law and Order. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I'm like, do you think I forgot how to do that the last 30 years? You know, like
yeah,
they'll still want me to
yeah,
read for and sometimes after all these years, you know, I want them to just look at the tape and say, make the offer for the job. I'm sure I could do it. You know,
yeah,
it's not like Colin Farrell is auditioning for these movies. He does these big parts. So, you know, he's not looking to get my little part, you know.
yeah,
So he gets offered for
yeah,
those, I should get offered for this little part, you know. So, but you know, when I get frustrated by that, I double back on the work ethic and how much my parents struggled. And then as soon as I do that, I go, well, at least someone wants to see me for the part,
yeah,
right? You know,
yeah,
so that's influenced me a lot. And then I had some acting teachers when I was younger, and that, you know, I started with when I was 13 years old in New York. Bill Green and Beverly Kennedy. They kind of got me to fall in love with acting. I was already in love with it, but I didn't know why I was in love with wanting to do it. But then once I met them, I fell in love with the process of it. And then there's a teacher in Los Angeles, but I was her first student in New York at Marymount Manhattan College when she left. She graduated from Yale and she started teaching at Marymount. And my class, along with, you know, it was only like 10 of us at Marymount. Moira Kelly was in that. You remember Moira Kelly, the actress, Toe Pick, Cutting Edge?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So her and I went to college together, and we were taught by this acting teacher who's now gone on to become one of the most famous acting teachers in Los Angeles. This woman, Leslie Kahn. And Leslie has, you know, been a huge influence on my career. I still study with her, and I do private coaching with her, and she's been in my life from, you know, from the very beginning. So she's been a huge influence, and you know, so yeah, I would say those 5 people.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, so who has had the biggest impact on you as a person?
My wife probably and my kids. Um, yeah, you know, that is been the beginning and the end for me. You know, so you know, it's everything I do now is related to that. Everything I am is related to that. Um, you know, I found out who I was when I became a father, and I found out who I am when I became a husband, and continue to find out who I am as a husband. Um, yeah, I mean, my wife is a huge influence on me. She, you know, she still teaches me without teaching me day in and day out to be patient, and and she has a kind of a Zen way about her, how she approaches life, which is not my nature. My nature is very New York, go get them, work hard, you know, kind of intense, you know, and hers is more California laid back, and it'll come and just kind of, you know, relax and you know, do the things that make you happy, and you know, stay in the moment as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then my kids teach me that just by being around them, you know, and so for me, that has been a huge influence on how I move forward and navigate the world that I'm in.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. If you had a warning label, what would yours say?
Um, wow, if I had a warning label, what would I say? I really want to ask my wife that. Um, um, wow, Maya, that's a good one. I mean, you know, I mean, beware of the switch. You know, it's I JV sit call because I'm half Armenian and I'm half Italian. You know, and and I when I was younger, I was definitely more of a hothead. I probably got into like more street fights than I'd like to admit to as a younger guy in New York. And so I don't have it as much as I used to, but there was definitely a time where if you said the wrong thing to me and not noticed like you were being disrespectful, or thought you were being disrespectful, I could turn on you. I have, and I access that often as an actor in roles. It's great, and it's one of the reasons why, like, I took up, I fell in love with boxing because I could place that somewhere else, you know what I mean? And not so, there's definitely that warning label is, I think people that know me know that you shouldn't, I mean, nobody should be disrespectful, but sometimes in the entertainment people business, there's been times when I've worked with certain people that could be disrespectful sometimes, especially towards an actor. And so my warning label is, don't fucking try to do the switch. Be aware of the switch,
Um, so how
It's a great question, though.
thank you.
Jamie! Jamie! She doesn't even know. I'm screaming and she doesn't, literally blowing this out. And she's like, Jamie! Oh, she's not out there now. All right. But yeah, it's that. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry. I was gonna see what my wife said. My wife says that on my tombstone, she goes, on your tombstone, it's gonna say, here lies Erik Palladino, ... A piece of work.
I love that. I love that. So how do you stay motivated on days that you aren't really feeling it?
I mean, for me, it's always about you have to accomplish something every day. So that motivates me. I have to accomplish something every day, and usually it's attached to creativity. So I write music, and I also write. So I've been writing and directing stuff lately, and so come close to selling a few shows over the years, and now I've been writing a lot more lately. So I just shot during the 6-month strike. I wrote and directed 2 different shorts. And literally writing another short right now that I'm going to have a buddy of mine direct, and I don't want to direct it. I want to be in it instead. But for me, when I stay creative in other forums, because, obviously in the acting business, I always have to get permission from somebody else to act. And I wish I had realized when I was a younger actor that I don't need permission. I just need to write and just make stuff. Obviously nowadays with the advent of phones, you can do it every day if you wanted, right? In fact, the idea that I just came up with the other day, well, I didn't come up with it the other day. I called my buddy Erik Palladino. So I don't know if you watch NCIS, but he's a writer. I mean, he's a director on it, and he was the first AD. And he and I've been collaborating over the break with each other. And I said, we should just shoot on Wednesday. Let's just shoot something on Wednesday. I'll write it on Tuesday. We'll shoot it on Wednesday. And like a 24-hour, because there's a thing here in LA, they do the 24-hour play where the writer writes it, then the actors act it, and then they put it up in 24 hours, everything in 24 hours, which I always loved the idea of that. So I was like, let's do that with the script, I'll just write it. And he said, oh, I'm busy this week, but next week. And I said, all right, well, I got something in my head. So I just started writing it. Next week, we're probably going to shoot that. But for me, that keeps me going. That informs my work when, say, an audition comes in for my agents and managers. So I'm alive still. I have to still be alive. When this and this gets like dulled from doing nothing creative, how am I going to then pick up a script and be alive? It's those things feed each other. They talk, they connect, they talk to each other. They live side by side. And if one isn't alive, the other one is certainly not going to be popping. You know what I mean? It just, so for me, that's what I do. I try to accomplish something creative every day, and then something else too, the kids and all that stuff. Like that's forced. That's
Yeah.
forced.
I love that. So, what is something people are always surprised to learn about you?
Wow. What are something people are always surprised to learn about me? I think what a softie I am, and like how easily I can cry about, like I mean, especially as I've gotten older, but I've always been that way. I'm pretty sappy,
Yeah.
sappy guy. I think that comes, I think it's, I think if you're kind of like, I don't know, it could be a New York Italian thing or Armenian thing, like, where like these guys that are like, guys, and whatever that means, but like those guys, usually, especially if they come from an Italian, like, like a romantic food family background, there's a big soft side to all of us, and I think that probably surprises people. Yeah.
Yeah. So what lessons from your childhood have most impacted your worldview?
um, um, Loyalty. Yeah, loyalty. I think that when you're loyal, with your friends, your family, that affects everything. You can, you're working together at that point. You know what I mean? There's unity, there's strength. You can't be any unity without loyalty. My dad said that, where there's unity, there's strength, son. He always said that to me. There's unity, there's strength, and so, I grew up with, my buddy, one of my best friends, Danny, I'm still very good friends with. In fact, he's like my financial advisor. I've known him since we were 6 years old. And, I've had the same manager in my career, agent, in and out of my, we had a breakup for a little bit, but we've been together for like 30 years. My wife always says to me, she's like, you're one of the most loyal people I've ever known. And sometimes it's, it can be a fault with certain people that I may have stayed loyal to for too long. There's that, my favorite new expression, here's another one saying, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but it is my favorite. It's not that new, but I've been for the last few years saying it to myself. When someone tells you who they are, believe them, right? Is that it? Is that the saying? Believe them.
I
It's
think
variations on it, but I love that one because it is diametrically opposed to my loyalty thing, right? And those two, right? Like, if someone tells you who they are and they're being not cool and disloyal, my loyalty would still be like, yeah, but they would make an excuse for them, or yeah, but and my job is to have empathy
Yeah.
for everybody, right? That's my job. You know, I
Yeah.
could play the most hideous person on the planet. I can't go into that character judging him. I have to be the lawyer
Yeah.
for that character. I have to represent him, even if he's a serial killer. I have to somehow, you know, represent him in a way that I am somehow, you know, being loyal to him, you know, because if I'm not, then how can I play him? And then it's just one dimensional. Oh, I'm a serial killer bad guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
well, you know, there's got to be, you know, I mean, serial killers are horrific, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's a reason. Something usually is connected, whether it be an extremely horrific childhood, you know, that created that, or it's a mental kind of deficiency, you know, but, you know, so for me, you know, my favorite saying though now is you just have to kind of, you know, do if there's a disloyalty, that's you gotta do that, you know, and but yeah, that as my as a child, I'd say that you know, growing up was a huge part of my the
Yeah.
fabric of who I was. My brothers were very loyal to me, you know, my friends, you know, and I was loyal to them and under all circumstances. And I brought that into my adulthood.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So what genre of movie would your life story be told as?
And I'm currently writing a, uh, a series about my the younger part of my life story, and it's kind of a coming of age. I won't go into too much detail, but I would say the genre is, you know, comedy, drama, and action. You know,
Yeah.
it's all three of those.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I would say those three. You know, I mean, not thriller, not horror, but
Yeah.
comedy, drama, and action. In the vein of like This Is Us meets Goodfellas. You know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what is your favorite way to procrastinate?
I mean, lately I've been on Instagram way too much.
Hmm.
Too much, and I've really been. I'm finding that it's making me sad. So I have to keep away from it. And I'm a bit
Yeah.
conscious about it in the last few days. You know, but I've noticed that in the last month, I've probably been. I looked at my like, I was like, oh God, I'm on it way more than I was a few months ago.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, um, so that's one way I procrastinate because I'm probably, and I know people throw this term around loosely, I'm probably a little ADHD, and I procrastinate really from going to one task to another task to another task, and sometimes not finishing half the tasks.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so I
I do
do
that
that.
all the time.
It's the worst, isn't it? The
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could take the Ritalin. I would take that in a heartbeat, but I have a heart thing that doesn't allow me to take that kind of stuff. So
Mm.
you know, I'm fine, but I'm just
Okay. Good.
you know, but no, no, fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. Good.
He said it was fine. Next thing you know,
Yeah.
you get a lot of PR. You get a lot of publicity on that one, Maya.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I asked too hard questions.
Drop dead right on the spot. It was a great interview until that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I love inspiring and motivational quotes. And that is one way I procrastinate. I just go down a rabbit hole on Instagram of reading quotes. Um, and so this week, my favorite quotation is by an artist and poet named Topher Kirby, and it says it doesn't need to be perfect for it to be amazing and beautiful, and for it to change your life forever in the best ways. Um, is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
Well, I read a few to you, right?
Yeah.
Especially the one today. But
Yeah.
it's funny, your quote, about it not being perfect, uh, you know, uh, it's it's funny. That's like a concept I've been, just thinking about lately. Seriously, like it's so, you know, uh, a lot of people throw away other people, marriages or something, and if it's not perfect or something, and 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 uh, and sometimes that if you're only looking for perfection, and I think about this too with acting too a lot lately. I've been thinking about it with acting with my work. Part of you know I don't always want to stay the same as an artist. I'm trying to always expand and grow and change and be conscious of different things and and so I noticed that sometimes I'll work on a scene right at home. You'll prepare it, and you'll, all right, I got it memorized, and I'm ready to go to work, and I've created this character, and I have all my ideas and and backstory and objectives in each scene and all the actor stuff that I've worked, technical stuff that I've worked on over the years. But I think I have a tendency sometimes when I enter a scene, not always, but often, especially not in the last few years as much because I've been doing it less. I see it. I see it before I shoot it.
Yeah.
I see what I want to do with it before I shoot it. That's terrible. Terrible habit. No one told me it's a terrible habit, but I've decided in recent years that it's a terrible habit. And the reason why it's terrible is how could I decide what it's going to be when I've never met the actor across from me?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They would talk about listening, right? Listening. And I think I've always been good at listening and responding in scenes and letting part of what I'm talking about go. But now I really like want to let that go. This idea of this perfect scene
Yeah.
in my head, because when I enter the scene and I'm prepared, and then I get on the set and I know what the scene is, but then I get on the set and I am letting all that shit go. And I'm just here with you, talking to you, Maya, in the scene. And however you're reacting to me, I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, and we're in the scene together. I know my words are the words that have been written by someone, and I have to say them, but I'm still only going to say it to you however it feels right in the moment.
Yeah.
And have um and have faith that wherever it goes is where it's supposed to go, and not where I want it to go, because that's stuck in this version of perfection. I've
Yeah.
had this preconceived notion of how I want it to go, and I'm controlling it, and I'm
Yeah.
controlling it towards this ideal that I have in my head that is really about perfection. So I have to fucking let that go as an artist. I have to do my uh, best possible for myself as a creative person to let go of perfection and just enter that scene. And the same thing with being married and having kids, being the best father, the perfect husband, the perfect wife, the perfect house, the perfect car. I gotta let all of that shit go, because that's not what you take with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You take those experiences, or you leave those experiences with someone, and if you're leaving the experience of you are always trying to be perfect, that's not a good that's not good, right? You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be around someone who's like, oh, it's gotta be perfect. This
Yeah,
dinner's gotta be perfect. It's bullshit.
yeah,
I have people that I know that are in my lives that are like sort of that way. And that's
mm,
fine for them. It's
yeah,
fine for them, but it is to me not the way to go.
mm, yeah.
No, but that quote's great. Could you say it one more time?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be perfect for it to be amazing and beautiful and for it to change your life forever in the best ways.
Exactly.
Mm.
That quote's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, when I saw it, I don't know, it really like connected with me that that's kind of how, what I've been thinking a lot with, things. I'm like, this isn't like with certain situations. It's like this is not the best situation or the best circumstances, but I am making memories that stick with me because like with my mom and my sister, I'm like, when I look back on this, I'm not gonna think about the bad thing that if there's something hard going on, I'm going to think about, laughing with them and just having fun, making the best of whatever situation we're in.
Because the challenges are always going to come.
Yeah.
Like they're always going to come. You can't get around that.
Yeah.
Challenges come from Tom Cruise. You know what I mean? And it's challenges come for every single person out there. Does know, and some are extreme, and some are less, but they're challenges are always going to come.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, well, it was so much fun talking with you. You have made my day. I so appreciate your taking the time joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Maya. You really are a lovely interviewer. You're great at it. You really are.
Oh,
And
thank you
like
so
your questions are different and
much.
interesting and really, and you have a really awesome spirit to you. So
Oh,
congratulations.
oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you.
Wow. It was very nice meeting you.
You too. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a wrap on today's edition of The Latest with Maya.